there's so much I want to ask you, and we'll have to do a part two because there's a million and one questions today. The reason that I reached out to Sean Mooney, who very kindly introduced us, was because I'd seen a news story. So before you were doing all of the Hulk Hogan tribute pieces, you were on the news recently talking about actually the last few years and how hard they've been for you and for your family and for your wrestling school. So before we wrap up for today, Jacques, I wonder if you could kind of take my audience through what's been going on in your life in the last few years.
Sure. But it's more like the last 4 years than the last 2 years.
Yeah.
A lot of people think they're untouchable. I was one of those, and then the COVID happened. And we all reinvent ourselves, and I reinvented myself in stand-up comic shows. So I do stand-up comedies about my wrestling career. So I go with my girlfriend. She's on the laptop, and she in the giant screen. She puts pictures, and I tell stories of all the behind the scenes and stuff like that about my career, and I bring back the good old memories. And then I have a big crash mat at the end where I go get people in the stands, and I bring them up without them knowing it, and I give them suplexes, power bombs, and I have fun. I have a great one-man show that I've been doing for many years. So I after doing that for like 3-4 years, then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, they I don't know how it was in your area, but they closed all the venues down.
Yep.
Like, you couldn't do any more shows, and wrestlers don't have insurance. And I always said to my dad, who was telling me, save your money when you're done. I said, don't worry, Dad, I'm going to make money all my life. I'm not worried about that. Then, I was always a guy. I wasn't poor, but wasn't rich. I was always living day by day, week by week, and making ends meet. And when COVID hit, no more tickets. I couldn't sell any more tickets. I couldn't do any more shows. So the government reached out to us. I don't know it was in your area, but they offered to give us $40,000 a loan, just that for here. We'll give you this, and you could pay back later. And things were so dark mentally. Because even at 11 o'clock at night, you couldn't leave your home anymore. Yeah. It was like there was a curfew. We got really scared. I got really paranoid, like, hey, the end of the world is coming, to be honest with you. So I grabbed that 40,000, sure. And then, so that lasted a couple of years. And then after that, after a year after that, I started doing shows again, and start paying the money that I need to pay to some friends and family because like I said, I didn't have any income, and I still had the debt of the 40,000 to the government. And then next thing you know, my girlfriend of 13 years, she got cancer. So, and anybody who's lived through cancer, you hear about it and you read about it, but until you live it, you don't know what the hell you're going through, because and not even you, your partner of life. The cancer is bad, but the chemotherapy is worse. The collateral damage that the chemotherapy does to a person, you have no idea. She was doing treatments for 16 months, and every week, and she was 3 days a week at the hospital. And those other 3 days, 2 days that you could go to work, you don't want to leave her, because she's at home, and you wake up in the morning, and then she's like, I got my head is killing me. You don't want to leave your girlfriend there like that, and go work. So I put my work aside, and I just took care of my lady. So I fell back in the hole again. And then for 2 years like that. And then after that, I did Wrestling Academy. I did 3 years of Wrestling Academy, which is a contest through Canada, where you fly. I was flying in the talent from all over Canada, and I had judges by the ring. It was almost like Americans Got Talent or something, or The Voice, or the judges were real, and I would put on Zoom matches together with wrestlers 1 month before their appearance in Montreal, and then I'd help them put a match together, make sure that it was equally done, the match, that everybody looked good, and then when they come to Montreal, they perform in front of the judges, and then they're going to the next level, from quarterfinals to semifinals to finals, and the 4 winners would win $10,000 each, 2 men and 2 women. Wow. So it was a competition that cost $100,000, but out of that, I did it for 3 years, and my girlfriend was sick in a little bit through there, but we still managed to do it. And but I lost $15,000 the first year. I lost $15,000 the second year, and I lost $20,000 last year because a couple of my sponsors went bankrupt, and they never paid me for the prizes. So I didn't want to lose face. So I borrowed the money, and I said, I put my credit card and I paid the rest of us because I didn't want the word to get out like Jacques Rougeau is not paying his winners. So I kept my name clean and all that. But now it was down like $70,000. So just about last week, my company that I had for 40 some years, I went bankrupt last week. And then I did that because for me, there's like, I just turned 65 years old now, and I got my old man's pension now, and that company was a numbered company. It wasn't like impersonal. And in my bankruptcy, I never put anybody in my bankruptcy. Like I never, excuse my language, but I never screwed anybody over. I didn't put them in there. Like, I'm not paying you. So I the little bit of debts that I had left, I'm paying people. Now I started doing one-man shows again. Now I'm paying my people. My credit card, I'm still paying my credit card. I never put my credit card in my debt. I just put the government, the $70,000 that my company was behind, that I, so it's been a roller coaster kind of way of life there. But the lesson in this is very simple. Like, first of all, save your money when you can, because you may need it one day. But the other one is much more important. The advice that I'm going to give people is, if you don't do it, it's okay. If you fight day by day like I did all my life, it's okay. The most important thing is, everybody falls in life, but the most important thing is to get back up. Until, if you fall, get up. And just keep fighting and keep pushing, and good things are going to come to you. And it was so funny because when I called my bankruptcy about let's say 3 weeks ago, approximately, I talked to the syndication, and I told the lady, I said, I don't want Jacques Rougeau to go bankrupt. Now it's just my numbered company. I'm not putting anybody in my debts. I don't want to hurt anybody with my bankruptcy. I just want to get this debt off my shoulder. I can't breathe anymore. It's like this. And I said, but I want to make sure that Jacques Rougeau's name is not in there. And she says, don't worry, it's a number. It's not going to show anywhere. So I'm sitting at home about 2 weeks ago, and then the phone rings, and it's the biggest newspaper in Montreal. Hey, Mr. Rougeau, we're sorry to hear, about you, because the media love me in Montreal. So they approached me like, Mr. Rougeau, we'd like to get your comments on your bankruptcy. And I'm going, and I died when I got that phone call. They're going public with it. And I was like, so I said, listen, I said, can I, you can't do that. And I said, it's a number. You can't bring my name. He said, sorry, Jacques, it's my big boss at the paper. He wants me to do a paper, but he wants me at least to get your version, your side of the story, if you want to give it to. If not, I'm going to print it anyway tomorrow. So I said, okay. I said, just give me an hour, okay? I need to talk to someone. He said, okay, no problem. So I called my syndication, and the woman that got me, that made the deal. I said, hey, you told me that it wasn't going to go public, that it wasn't my name. And she says, the Journal de Montréal just called me too. And she was like, but they have a lot of investigators when there's bankruptcies and stuff like that they go see who the people are behind the bankruptcies and all that. So I called the newspaper guy back. I said, okay, you got me. But I said, you know what? I said, it's important for me, one thing, that you tell everybody in this bankruptcy, that I'm not putting any company, any personal friend or anything. I'm paying my credit card. It's just the government that when the COVID came and they offered me the 40,000, and I panicked, I shouldn't have took it. But I had no income, I had no insurance, and I was afraid. And so I explained, and I did every media in Quebec. They all called me after that, and but you know what? They all picked me up from the ground, and they lift me up. In the articles and everything. They were saying, Jacques, you're not the only one who went bankrupt because of COVID, believe me. And it's great, and you're very honorable in what you're doing, and you're just a normal human being, and I'm sure things are going to get better, and I'm sure. So everybody got behind me in the media. So finally, I didn't lose face, which I was afraid of, because the Rougeau name is so important to me and our heritage. And so it went by okay. So now I'm doing really good. I got next week I'm going to start selling my tickets again. I got 3 shows coming up, and things are really looking good. So I'm back. The weight's off my shoulder now of that debt I had, and I'm starting over.